Since the beginning of mankind, humans have always looked beyond their borders and wanted to dominate their neighbors. But dominating a few villages and fields was enough only until the 6th century BCE. After that, with the advancement of military technology and logistics, empires were formed. Empires covered vast territories and had regular armies due to large populations, so the next victories were easier. With the increase in agricultural income and taxes, the heavy expenses of these armies were also covered. All empires, along with their progress, also engaged in barbarism, but in the best conditions: wealth and good food, proper defense, and creating financial and personal security gave people the opportunity to enjoy life, and science and art flourished, With these features in mind, we take a closer look at the 5 most influential empires in the world to see which one was the best. Please subscribe to our channel and like the video before watching the video. Number 1. British Empire. To the whole of the territories, colonies, possessions, and territories under the rule of the United Kingdom of Great Britain. It is said that its foundation began in the 16th and 17th centuries and continued until the end of the 20th centuries. In 1922, the area under the control of the British Empire reached more than 33 million square kilometers, and the population of the empire reached more than 450 million people. Thus, the British Empire dominated more than a quarter of the Earth's land and a quarter of the world's population at that time. It was spread all over the world under this empire, and it was said that the sun never sets on the British Empire. The expansion of the British Empire led to the dispersion of British political and cultural heritage and the English language throughout the world. In the age of exploration in the 15th and 16th centuries, Portugal and Spain, as the pioneers of exploration and navigation, established many colonies and trade routes around the world and accumulated a lot of wealth in this way. In competition with them, the countries of France, England, and the Netherlands also increased their efforts to establish colonies and trade networks in the Americas and Asia. The creation of the Kingdom of Great Britain after the union of the kingdoms of England and Scotland, and the country's victory in several wars over France and the Netherlands, made Britain the dominant colonial power in North America and the Indian subcontinent. Although Britain lost its 13 important colonies after American independence in 1783, the expansion of colonies in Asia, Africa, and the Pacific, and the victory over Napoleon in 1815 made Britain the undisputed power of the world for more than a century. It enabled that country to expand its power in the world. In the second half of the 20th century, in line with the decolonization process of the European powers, most of the colonies and regions under the control of the British Empire gained independence. This process ended with the return of Hong Kong to China in 1997. 14 territories are still directly under the rule of the British government, which are called British Overseas Territories. Number 2. The Mongol Empire. The Mughal Empire, originally called the Great Mughal Empire, was a large empire that existed during the 13th and 14th centuries and ruled for 162 years. It started from Central Asia and finally extended from Eastern Europe to the Sea of Japan and covered a huge part of Siberia and went south and included Southeast Asia, the Indian subcontinent, and the Middle East. That is why it is known as the second largest empire in the history of the world. This empire reached 6,000 miles at its greatest extent, which means it covered about 25% of the total area of the Earth and ruled over a population of over 100 million people. Of course, Of course, this area did not last all this time, but the peak of its expansion was in 1294 AD, that is 8 years after its formation. And after that it was divided into 4 parts and gradually went to destruction. And in 1368 AD, it was completely destroyed. The Mongol Empire was born from the unity of the Mongol tribes under the command of Genghis Khan. Genghis Khan was introduced as the commander-in-chief of the Mongols in 1206. The empire under his leadership and his descendants grew rapidly in all geographical directions. A vast empire that connected east to west and ultimately served as the world's cultural settlement. Under the Mongols, new technologies, goods, and ideologies spread throughout Eurasia. The scope of these exchanges was from cartography to printing industry, and from agriculture to astronomy. The Mongol Empire was then divided into several parts, and the last one was the Yuan dynasty. Number 3, the Russian Empire was an empire that ruled parts of the continents of Europe, Asia, and America for 196 years, from October 22, 1721 to its overthrow in February 1917. The capital of this empire was the city of St. Petersburg, and its official language was Russian, and its kings were called Tsars. The Russian Empire is the 3rd largest empire in history, after the British Empire in history, after the British Empire and the Mongol Empire. The first Tsar of Russia during this period was Peter I, and the last was Nicholas II. For more than 2 centuries, Tsarist Russia was part of the Mongol Empire. But in the 15th century, the Muscovite province, which included a small area of today's Russia, gained power, to the extent that he called the Mongols of the Golden Army to fight. Prince Hadrian, Ivan the Great, refused to pay tribute to the Mongols. The next ruler, Ivan IV, expanded the territory of the Muscovy province. His nickname, Ivan the Terrible, indicates that he was the first Russian Tsar who was more feared than loved. While expanding its colonies and ruling over their people in order to consolidate its power, the Russian Empire has always resorted to widespread and diverse violence, including genocide, massacres, group executions, forced migration, forced labor, hunger, and thirst. Number 4, Qing Dynasty, also known as the Great Qing Dynasty or the Manchu Dynasty. It was the 4th largest empire in the world and the last dynasty in China that ruled China from 1644 to 1912. This dynasty came to power with the overthrow of the Ming Dynasty, and the life of this dynasty ended with the establishment of the Republic of China. This dynasty was founded by a member of the Georgian tribe, the Azing-Gyuro clan, in Manchuria, located in the northeast of present-day China. This empire reached its peak in the 18th century and has been declining ever since. The era of this dynasty coincided with the beginning of China's modernization, as well as interference and conflicts with colonial governments. The last king of this dynasty was abdicated on February 12, 1912. A Jurchen clan chief named Nurhaci, who was actually a Ming subject, began uniting Jurchen families into a military system called the Banners in the late 16th century and raided the Ming, Mongol, and Shuzhen borders. Number 5, Spanish Empire. It was one of the largest empires in world history and one of the first empires to expand globally. In the 15th and 16th centuries, Spain was the center of domination over various colonies in the world. At the height of its expansion, the Spanish Empire ruled over vast territories located in the American continent from North America, Central America to South America, as well as areas of Africa and the Philippine Islands in East Asia. The Spanish Empire became weak at several points in time and went into liquidation. First, in the naval war with the British Empire in 1588, from the Anglo-Spanish War, the legendary Spanish Navy, which was considered the world's best naval power for half a century. So, called the Armada, suffered a severe defeat from the British Navy. And after that, it was the British Navy that was named and maintained the most powerful navy in the world until the end of the First World War. The second time that the Spanish Empire was greatly weakened was in the early 19th century, when Napoleon appeared in France. The Great French Revolution prepared the atmosphere of this country for the appearance of Napoleon and the creation of a powerful France. Napoleon attacked the Iberian Peninsula in 1807. He occupied large areas of Spain and all of Portugal. And finally, the Kingdom of Spain surrendered to France. The third time the Spanish Empire was weakened and practically lost all its colonies was after the war with America in 1898. In this battle, his navy was destroyed, and the empire was on the verge of collapse, and many of its remaining colonies also gained independence. The state of Florida joined the United States. The island of Cuba became independent, and the Philippine archipelago was given to the United States, which gave the Philippines independence, and the Puerto Rico archipelago was also given to the United States. This battle can practically be considered the end of the Spanish Empire.